So first of all, let me mention the agenda that we are going to have in today's session. So this agenda is going to be the continuation of the agenda that we have seen in the previous session, which is a very important topic which we completed is component event. It's a continuation of that. It is called as application event. Okay, so let us see something about this. What is application event and what actually it's going to do. And as there was a gap of 5 days now, in 5 working days, because we take the sessions on weekends, so let me have a very quick recap what we understood about event. So the quick recap of the event is this. So we understood that whenever we want to do the communication between component to component, the way in the Visual Force pages, we do page to page, and you cannot skip this because you have to connect between multiple pages or component in real-time project. Otherwise, you cannot even create a single project. And while making communication between them, what we do? Simple, we just share the data between this environment, sorry, between this component to that component. So ultimately communication is nothing but exchanging some data. So here this mechanism of data exchange is done in Salesforce by event, which helps to in communication between two events, and then finally data exchange happens. Then we also understood that there are two types of events, that is component event and second is application level event. And then we also understood that how actually component event works. We also understood the various phases, that is the phase where the component 1, that is called as the notifier. So any kind of comes from the mic or any kind of different voice comes, so please tell me immediately, otherwise this recording will be hampered. So, and that I don't know because I cannot hear you what you are hearing. So just keep on telling me anything anytime it's not giving clear sound the way right now it's coming. Okay, it just maybe some kind of mic issue, but just keep telling me. So here first of all you will have a component which is interested to send the information. The sender component is called as the notifier component, which is ready to send the data. This notifier component via the JavaScript code, because we also know that this component communication happens only by JavaScript, then it will send some information to the event, where in the event we are going to store some kind of data in the attribute, and then whenever the event is going to happen, then we are going to again notify to or infer to the handler component, and handler component in the again JavaScript code going to fetch this data. That's it, your data is transferred. Now after getting the data, whatever this component will do, it's their business. Okay, so now the same process what we learned in this previous session, now I'm going to explain you in a different perspective. Here now we have application level event. Okay, so what actually that event does, let me just show you by one diagram. Just give 1 second. So there is one diagram which we discussed in the previous session for the application level event, and that same diagram now I need to use for explaining you that how this actually happens in terms of the different types of events. So just give 1 second, let me open the diagram. And yeah, so here we go. So let me just save this image. See now, understand this situation. So first of all, now when we want to do any kind of communication that is between one component to another component, which generally happens in this format, a container component. Okay, so at that time we will be going with the component level event, where either the event either the component is going to notify itself, or this component is going to notify the parent component. These are the two cases. Okay, but in application level event, this component, let's say this component, now it's going to notify to everyone, to this also, to this also, to this also, to this also, and to this also. It's like a broadcasting, or it's like the WhatsApp group chat, where if we do some kind of message transfer, it will reach to everyone in that particular group, that is in the application. So please note, the way in a WhatsApp group you post a message, then everyone in the group, please note, only in the group, anyone outside of the group, he cannot know or understand or get information about this message that you are passing in your WhatsApp group. Only the group member, but all people will get the access to see the information. Whereas the component level event is nothing but like kind of one-to-one chat. Here only you will be able to send the information to that person to whom you want to send the information. So it's like a controlled way. Whereas in your WhatsApp group, you don't know, you don't have any control. Once you post, everyone will see what you're typing, what you're saying. Okay, so this is a bit uncontrolled way. And we have lots of control in one-to-one chat, because we know apart from this person, let's say your friend name is Ajay, apart from Ajay, no one is able to see the information. Okay, second thing, the best practice of Salesforce says that always try to go for component event, because it's more controlled. You have full control here, and you can just it's like a kind of contained event. You have control, you know actually what is the range of that propagation and where the data is going to reach, etc, etc. So try to use component event as much as possible, unless you have some very general or common information to be shared. Let's say for example, record ID, record information. Now these kind of things are common, so you would definitely won't mind if any kind of record ID, the information, any kind of name of email address of the candidate, a general information like this you are spreading to everyone. Yes, these kind of things are okay if you go for application level event. Okay, now what we are going to do, we are going to first of all try to understand that how actually application event we are going to create, and what all the possible steps are there in this process. So first of all, what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the step-by-step code, and then I'm going to give you the output of that. So let me just talk about the code. So here, what we are going to do is, first of all, I'm going to put the code here. So see how actually the process is going to happen, the application level event, how it's going to work. So please note, first of all, we will be deciding the strategy, which kind of event we are going to use in Salesforce, and or our Salesforce project. And once it is done, then we'll follow some approach. First of all, we will create a event, and we will give that event a name. Let's say a name should be also so much clear that the reader should understand what you are doing. So let me tell you something about this, and here let me write some kind of notes also. So application level event follows the traditional pattern of. Now see, like the traditional pattern means, like for example, the publisher and subscriber pattern. Like we are going to publish something, we are going to send something, and it's going to received by the receiver. Such kind of pattern actually, which we see the publish subscribe model actually, which we see in the application level event, where we are going to publish something, and there is some kind of subscribers. We are going to publish to everyone all the components, and someone, or in fact everyone, will be subscribing the information. This is what actually the model this application level event for handles. And here we don't have any much control on that, because it's going to be open for everyone. So that is also something very important to know. So here this is comparatively not a controlled way of data sharing, or in fact communication between components. Okay, because and as compared to application event, component events are more controlled, because we know that how actually the things are going to happen and who is going to receive, etc., etc. Okay, it's like a kind of localized sharing. Okay, so here component event pattern is called as localized sharing, whereas application event is called as globalized. In short, it will be making the access open for everyone in the involved in that particular application, and this way sharing happens. Next, application event is also fired from the components only, and all components that provide a handler for that events are notified. Okay, so same like component event, application event is also called by a a component, and here all the other components in the same application. Now this is important, it's not outside application, I'm talking about same application. In the components in the same application will be notified who are having handlers. Like those applications which are ready to handle that particular event, and you know how to write the handler, right? We need to just write the attribute, the tag, and some information, so that that component will become the handler. So anyone is ready, fine, then Salesforce will send it. Okay, now let's go for understanding some let's say some kind of useful scenario or useful situation. So what we'll do, that will first of all we will just try to understand how this activity happened. Let's go for a step by step activity, and here is a step by step activity. First of all, the user, so let me just mention here how it all happens. Steps for application event. So what, how we need to create this application events, try to understand. Step number one, first of all, step number one, we need to uh, understand that user need to click on that particular event, and getting the application event activated. Okay, so like user clicks on the event, clicks on the button, and in the notifier components, or let's say start any kind of event, etc., etc. In simple words, user performs some kind of activity. Okay, so let's say user performs uh, some. So let me mention here, user performs some action like click of button, but in the notifier component. This is step number one. Okay. Next, step number one is done. Then it's time to generate the event. Okay. So the client side controller from the notifier component sets a message in the component event and fires the event. Again, that you know. Okay. So JS code present in client side controller sets the data and fires event. Okay, so that the events will start working as per its design. But initially we need to load the data, because if your data is not there, then what is the meaning of all these things, right? Then what will happen, then handler component will come into the picture, and it will handle the event. Okay, so handler component will take the control and handles the event. So we just need to declare the handler tag at the top of the component of handler component, and that's it. Then Salesforce will automatically do the work, and you know very well, in that process the common thing is the name of the handle is very important. So once the handling is done, now the client side controller from the handler a component set attribute, we take the benefit of the attributes in handler, and use the data from the event, etc., etc. In simple words, the data is fetched by or accessed by the JavaScript code. So JS code present, or in short, instead of JS, I should write here client side controller JS, client side controller JS code, because that is much better than just a JS code. So client side controller JS code present in handler component will take the data from event and perform the needed usage of data, because ultimately it's all about using the data, right? If you're just transferring the data and nothing is going to happen, then all efforts are useless. Okay, so the event, the component, here they will be accepting the data and accordingly performing the action, and setting the data, displaying the data, whatever. Okay, but so once it is done, now it's time to understand how exactly we can achieve this by code. So let me write the code, and let me first of all explain you, and then immediately I'm going to start running the code to see that whether you're comfortable and confident with this knowledge or not. Okay, so let me now do that, and let's write the codes, some code now. So first block which will be coming is of course from the application we are going to create. Okay, so first of all we are going to create the application necessary for that, and then which is going to call that. So let me tell you, let me write some let me copy the code from my system, just to one minute. So to save our time, I'm just going to copy the code in my system. Okay, so let's say I created an application and give the name of the application. Let's say, for example, training, then application event and then app. Okay, so I hope you're using this kind of pattern of naming convention. Otherwise you will be also confused, you will be also confused, getting completely see your code messed, like you're not able to understand which code and which component and which tag is for which purpose and which application for which purpose. So this happened with 99% people in the industry who are lightning developers, like they give a complete mess, and then they don't understand, okay, so right now I have 50, 60, 80 components, these components for what, these applications for what, they don't understand. Please note, this is the pattern which I have started using for my own, in my job, in my work. I'm finding it very useful. That is the reason I'm sharing with this you guys. So you guys also could take the advantage of this pattern. I can easily understand which is for what and where are all the related components. If this is the application, then where is the component? Easily I can search. Okay. So this is what you can also take the benefit of. Fine. This is just application. Now next is you need to arrange the notifier component. A notifier component which is going to be notifying the which is going to notify the component, and it's going to tell to Salesforce, I am going to be the notifier component by using the register event. So please note, the component which is going to use the register event gets the capacity to become notifier. If you are not having register event, forget, then not possible. Okay. And also the name attribute is required but not used for the application event. So the name attribute is only useful for component event. So and yeah, let me mention here something about that. Then we are going to write the notifier component. Okay, so here after code I will mention that name attribute is not so important here the way it was highly important in component event. You saw that, right? You saw in the last session it was very important, right? And we need to create the notifier event now, notifier events, and you also know that the component which has register event tag becomes notifier. This also you know very well, right? This becomes notifier, and that is the reason. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to create now a notifier component, and we will just, let me just copy the code from my system. Okay, so here is the code. So let me just make some changes here. This was for component events. Let me take it now here, application event. We'll give the name of the event as application event. Okay, and now see here, so this is from this to this we have notifier component, and here we are writing this to ensure that Salesforce will understand this is nothing but the notifier component. Then we can give the name, let's say application event or anything like that. You can give any kind of name. Okay, so let's say for example, say, let's give the same name, no problem. Okay, so give some kind of name to this because this is something now not so useful like component event, and tell to which event it's going to be connected. Now we have not created event, we'll create that also, but here we can tell to which event it is connected. This is going to register an event. It means it's going to notify. It means it's going to send the data. Okay, but which event? This event. We are going to send the data to this event. Okay, some kind of heading. Oh, sorry, it's here application event, and then a button I have created and label. Click here to fire application event, and I'm going to fire a JavaScript function. That's it. Okay, so these things you need to know here. And now next. Now next is the JavaScript code, right? Because of that only it's going to happen. JavaScript code is very essential. So the client side controller gets an instance of the event by calling now the $8 get and all these things. So then we are going to set the attribute and fire the event. All these things we are going to do here now. Okay. So let me again paste the code. Just give 1 second. Now see here. So now next thing we are going to write here is JS code for notifier component. Okay, and I'm just going to do one thing here. Code in this, I'm just going to write a step like this so you'll easily understand to copy what and how. Okay, so this is JS code for notifier component. Now what I'm going to do, just a function fire application event, and it's going to accept two parameters, component event. And now here one important thing, to get the application event, by using, now we can use this. Okay, e dot, like the namespace. In simple words, just write C if you are not having namespace, because generally we write C and dot event. That's it. Okay, this is the way you need to call the application event. And then our application event is, now see here, that is the event name that we are going to use. So let me just application event. Okay, and let me write here something like this, my application event. Okay, and come here and just paste here. So this is going to now get the handle of that event which we are going to create, and this handle will come to this variable which I'm going to write something like this, variable application event, and it will come here. So to this event we are going to say, so we got the handle, line number 56, we got the handle of the event, right, in the variable called as var application event. And then in that handle we are going to set the parameter, a simple parameter, let's say message, or our variable name is this useful information. So this is something I'm going to transfer. Okay, or some kind of uh, some kind of let's say uh, some kind of business uh, data. This is now the attribute I'm having, business data. Okay, and just come here, and I'm going to send in the business data, do one thing, write a message, an application event fire, and something like this you can write, or some additional information you can set, or let's say you can also write let's say customer uh, let's say customer transaction ID passed, something like this. Okay, so what we need to do, we need to just transfer the transaction ID of the customer, something like this. Okay, such kind of statements you can write. You can pass some kind of account number, transaction number, ID, record ID, anything like this you can pass and perform the activity. So I'm just telling you this as an example. You can do anything here like this. Okay, fine. And then fire, without this it's not going to work. You must fire that event. Okay, so this also we have seen in the previous session. So once you get, when you set a fire, then only it will start working. Okay, so now here things to know from the code. So please note this to set parameters or attributes of event. We are just setting the value, and here this fire the event, so it will start its work as per the expectations, and here get handle of event, get handle of event. Okay, so like this we need to do. Okay, fine. So this code is having these important things. Now you have sent the code, but the next thing which comes into the picture now, that after you send the code you should be creating the handler event, right? You should be creating a handler event, and that is what actually we need. Okay, so now let me write here. And by the way, here is a small correction. Actually this is the application event. Okay, and I'm going to just paste here, and this I'm going to keep at the end. Application I'm going to create, that I'm going to do at the end. Okay, with the name this. Okay, so first of all I created the event and application event, which is called as this, and here this is the attribute. Okay, and this event I'm using everywhere. Okay, now once it is done, the D step is nothing but now working on the handler, the component which is going to handle this event and all the stuff it's going to perform. Okay, so what we'll do now after this is the component event. So handler event. So the handler component, handler code, handler component, handler JavaScript, everything we are going to write now here. So the handler component uses the aura handler attribute tag. If we are using that, then only the component becomes capable of handling an event and get the data, otherwise not possible. So it's just not need to, you just need to register with this and tell that it's going to handle the app event. Okay, and please note the handler uh, for this application, whatever we are going to use. Okay, so please note here it is not going to work if we set the name attribute here, whenever we are going to write any kind of application level component level event, then only it's going to work. Okay, now let me tell you two very important things. Just try to remember this, it's very important. And first of all, let me mention here the points to note here. This tag is must for those components which are going to handle some event. So this is mandatory. Okay, next another thing, in this tag we won't be using name attribute. If you remember, in the previous session I told you that this name attribute is a very important for component event. Total opposite here, it's not at all important in application event. By the way, by mistake, and it's a very interesting thing to remember, by mistake you use this name tag just by mistake, then it will not be anymore the application level event, it will become the component event. Look at this. So how strictly it says you no use of name attribute, that's it. Okay, so that we used in the component event, here not allowed. Okay, we won't be using name attribute. If we use that by mistake also, the then please note the functionality is, or functionality becomes component event. Okay, so in short, by mistake also you don't use name here, otherwise it will just simply make the change as I said. So it's going to like simply it's going to like when we're going to use name, then your it will not work like an application event, the handler, and it's going to work like a component event. Okay, so in short, let me write here in another words, in another words, the handler of application event won't work if we use this name attribute. Okay, remember this. Now it's time to go for the handler component code. Okay, so now as usual, in the handler component code we have to write first of all the registration mechanism, and for that we will just write some kind of variable. Let's say message from event, number of times the event was called and all, same pattern. And then we are going to also mention that this event is actually connected with this component is going to connect with which kind of event. And also we are going to mention what we are going to do once the action is taken. So here we go, handler component. So see, I'm declaring two variables of type strings, and one is integer. One is to just get a message what is coming from the event, and the next is the number of events that were called. Just to give you idea how you can use the knowledge of this kind of counting, and plus additional information about the events. Then and how many times event is called, and then I'm going to write a handler, which is very necessary. Mention which event it's going to handle, that event name. And once you are going to get the event, means when some component is going to call or fire this event, then what you are going to do. So I'm going to handle by calling this code in function called as handle application event, which is definitely in the JavaScript code. And then I'm going to write some message, the variable from component. Let's, for example, this is coming from this, and number of event this is coming from this, and these values I can set very well from the JavaScript code that also you know very well. That's it. Now the last phase remaining. The last phase is what? The last phase is to write the JavaScript code, and this JavaScript code is we are going to write as a step number E, and here we are going to write the code that the controllers to just retrieve the data sent in the event, and we are going to use this, and we are going to use to update the data or the values or counting. That you can do anything, by the way, that is not a problem, so that you know very well. So we are going to write a handler event JavaScript function, and we are going to just get the parameters from that particular handler. Now that parameter is having the name called as business data, so we'll just take the values called as business data, and then we are going to set the value. So for this counting purpose we are going to use the values to be set, and we will use this values in the counting event or using the functionality. So for all these processes we will be using this. Okay, so let's see how we can perform this activity, and here we go. So see now here, first of all, see, this is my JS code for handler. So I'm writing a function, and it's going to accept two values, which is going to write component. Okay, so it's going to accept component and event, and I'm going to write a very local variable called as variable message, and from that event I'm going to get the parameter business data. Next, now set this value to the handler attribute based on the event data. So component.set and then a variable present in the present here, this variable message from event, I'm going to use here. I'm going to set from this, and as soon as it sets from this message from event, you can see here this value we are displaying here, line number 80, automatically the fresh value come will appear here. And then I'm going to just going to take the count how many times it's getting called. So component.get, I'm going to fetch the value, then increment by 1, and again convert into the integer, and this value you again set to the number of events. So it's like a technique that we have seen previously also in the last session. It's going to count the values. And final thing is now talking about application. Now this is also important because it's not application is also to be created, because please note it's mainly depending on the how it's going to work, application event and this event. So please note the format is interesting. So we are going to create one first of all component. Okay, that is nothing but going to be the container component. So what we'll do before the application creation, which is going to contain the notifier and handler both. Okay, now this is different from component event example, because where handler is the container of notifier. Okay, so try to understand, and once it is done, then we can just start using this container component, which actually in any kind of application, and start working on that. Okay, so see, this is something very interesting, and mostly people are not clear with these kind of things. Try to understand what is this. This is something new for you. So first of all what we need to do is we need to create one component which is going to be now the container component. So let me mention here, to achieve the scenario of the real-time cases and understanding the application event. Okay, so what we are going to do, we are going to just create a container component, and you know very well how we can create that. Like just a component we need to create, copy, paste, inside that remove all the code. So this is my component. Okay, now here I'm going to write C and then write the name of the component. So for example, I'm going to give the name also, and the component is let me give some proper name, because I need to use the name here now. So see what name I'm going to do, training application event, then notify component. Okay, I'm going to use this name, and okay, thank you for informing. Now it's coming. I'm just typing something. Is it coming now? Thank you. Yeah. So now see here, I'm going to use two things here, notifier component, handler component in the same component. Why? Because I want to give you the scenario or the case of the application event handling, and this I'm going to put in an application. So all the components in the application, main component, sub component, child component, anyone can start giving the information to each other. Okay, so I'm giving the both components here, and let me just paste the name. This is the notifier component, so let me give the name here, notifier component, and the component name is this, and next is handler component, and the component name is this. Okay, that's it. And finally we need to create the application which is going to call this container component. So let me just write here also, the name of the component is going to be container component, and we'll use this in application. Okay, and now we just need to create one application, and in that application we can just mention this value. Okay, so let's see how it's going to happen. Let me go to Salesforce environment and let me go to the classic experience and let me show you the work, how it's going to happen. So click on your name. Where is my name?
Commerce Cloud connects you with
component which I used on that day. So click on your name and go to click on this and go to developer console and let me start developer console and let's create first of all everything that we planned. So the first thing which you need to create is application, lightning application, and here we'll give the name, what name we are using, and submit. Now here you write the component name, component. Okay, so how it's going to work now, see, first of all this application is going to call the container component and where it's having multiple components in that. Now here ultimately we need to see that how they are getting notified, and let us see now something about this. So let me just copy this code and paste here so your file will be ready. Okay, so this is our application we are going to use. Now see, now we are going to use this container component which contains the notifier and as well as handler components. This is the different from the component event example where the handler contains the notifier component. Okay, so it's very important thing. Now let me tell you something about this. EFG, things to know. Here we are adding all, we are adding, let's say, notifier and handler in the container component. Okay, please note this pattern is totally different than what we saw in component event example, where one component is in another. Okay, and that also you saw pattern which is specialty of the component level event. So here the different from difference is like where where the handler contains the notifier and all these things, right? So here that is a pattern where one pattern or another. In short, in another words, there we saw a notifier, or let's say a handler component contains notifier component, right? This pattern we saw. Fine. Okay, so now it's time to copy the code. So first of all, let me copy this. Quickly go for now the code creation. So this is ready. Then now create one kind of component, and this time the component name is, so this time let me just copy the component, copy, come here, paste here, and submit. In that component, this is the container component. So in this container component, I'm going to write two components because I don't want to follow the pattern of component event. I want to follow the pattern of application event where it will be not having the sub part of something. It's open. Okay, next. Now it's time to create these events. So let's create now from the beginning. First of all, event. Okay, my application event. I'm going to create the event. So file, new event, and let's say event, and click on submit and paste the code in the event. Now this time note, it's like an application event. You can see the tab is present there, application event, right? So this is done. Okay, and now let's create this component. So come here, file, new component. Okay, and now in this component, I'm going to copy this code. This is the notifier component, means the component which is going to generate the data or call the event. And here means send the event, and then this way send the data. So this is the JavaScript code which is going to be used for performing this action. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just copy this code and paste this much, because remaining other things are already present. So let me remove this, because if you copy this code and paste it, I want it should running exactly right or correctly. So that is the reason I'm removing the bracket, so that you can just replace like this. Now this you can just save, and this also you can just save, and you can just close this for more space purpose. Okay, then the handler component, come here, file, new lightning component, and then paste this handler which is going to receive the data. Okay, how it's going to receive, we must write this kind of attributes, like especially the handler attribute. You can see line number 5. This is what making this application, making this component as a handler component. And write the code in the JavaScript now, because you know that this event things are only possible by using JavaScript code. Let me remove this beginning and ending code, copy and just paste wherever we have the replacement. That's it, and save it, and save it. And now the both application is ready, so save all, because now the container component also will work and not make any problem. And then we have done this already, and then we have done this already. It's time to see the output. Okay, so just do one thing, go to the application which is the main application. This is the main application. So to this main application you just press preview. Just press preview, and let the page get loaded. It is loading. So you can see we have this. Okay, so use case of application event. Now click here to fire an application event, and click on this, and you can see number of event 1. Click on this, number of event 2, number of event 3. So here, by using the application event mechanism, I can write the code in any component, and this way I can pull the necessary data, and that's it. So this way it will be very easy for me to perform this activity, and I can just take any kind of such data and modify this. That's it. That's called as application level event. So tell me guys, any question you're having, anything which is unclear in the application level event, please ask. It's something very important, so I want you guys should be very clear with this. So tell me guys, everything clear till this point? Please reply in the chat box. Are you clear with this application event? It's very important. Very good. All clear. Fantastic. Because why I'm saying this, because now you're going to get some assignments from my side, and you need to understand these all things before that. Okay, great. So let me see, there is any question in the chat box. Okay, there is a question in the chat box. The question is, uh, how many handlers all event can be in the component? So there is no problem, there is no such numbers, there is no such problem. So you can create multiple handlers. And please note, but note one important thing, like you are writing 10 light handler components and all in that application has sending 10 different data. No problem, it's going to work, so no issues. Okay, I hope you got the answer. Now any other question, let me see. Yeah, so please note guys, now as if you are clear with this, then I'm going to send you some important assignment. Now that is coming from my recently completed project. So what I want you guys is to be now work on this and make some kind of practice, make it strong, and then it will be like very easy for you to understand this. Okay, so let me, and also do one thing, let me also make some kind of small modifications like adding the SLDS that we have done in the previous session, so that we can just understand that whenever we are going to use any kind of activity, then how we need to write some kind of code and all. So for that purpose only, I'm just going to use some SLDS. So just make some application level SLDS, okay, that by adding the handler this SLDS tag. So let me show you. So just add this also, so that it will give lightning look and feel. Okay, and just click on file, save all, and update the preview. And I added some kind of cards also at the top, so you can see case study of application event, and you can see like this. Okay, so this is called as event. Now I'm going to give you some assignments, and also we are going to discuss tomorrow some kind of more detailed topics in the same journey. Okay, let's meet tomorrow. Have a great time.